I'll be doing the first part of the talk, and then Thea is gonna follow right after. So we're here to talk to you about starting off and building my background in music in the dishes that I create, or that I would be able to use my skills in photography for marketing. Well, I'm sure most, if not all of you, are here today to listen to all the young speakers and be inspired. That somehow, maybe after all of these talks, you'll have an idea as to how you can start your own thing or start creating something that is 100% you. And while that is what we wish to achieve, I don't think we could ever tell you exactly what you need to do or the steps you have to take in order to achieve what you want to achieve or get where you want to be. In reality, all the speakers, all of us are really trying to say the same thing, but what we're trying to share to you are different perspectives as to how to approach life. Whenever we talk to customers in the restaurant, we're often asked, how did you guys start the Girl in the Bowl in 1210? Where did you learn how to cook? Also, you're a self-taught chef. How did you learn how to do these things? Or what made you decide to open a restaurant? Then our answers would usually be somewhat long, and it would contain these elements. Me dropping out of college 3 times and not finishing school, meeting each other and falling in love with food and with each other. How our fine arts background influenced our approach to the restaurant, and the dishes that we create, or how my medium changed from painting to cooking. And being inspired from our experiences from a long period of time. But there's really so much more to that I can't just squeeze in a short conversation with someone I don't know, because I'm not really good at talking to people. And if I were to tell you guys the real story, it would actually date further back in time, and there would be so many more layers contributing as to how, and more importantly, why we are where we are today. As a kid, I've always been into art. I got into drawing and painting as early as 4 years old, and I was surrounded by art ever since because my family designed and built homes, and I had a cousin who was a painter. I grew up like any other normal kid, but in a not so very normal way. Most of my childhood was spent with my grandparents while my mom, my sister, and my dad were away and living somewhere else because, well, I didn't know. But I never questioned that. My dad then passed away, and we ended up moving to just one house, and life went on from there. Like any other kid, I got into a lot of things and made a lot of friends along the way. I got into video games, of course. I got into music and played the drums. I got into photography, creative writing, film, tattoos, and even industrial design. I also gained and lost another dad along the way and discovered later on that my real dad was still alive. But that's not very important. I wasn't really into school, but have always been interested in the learning. I enjoyed every bit of it. But when it was time to put up a grade or submit a requirement, I was too lazy to do so. At times I even felt like they weren't worth my time, which is why I dropped out of school twice. But why am I telling you all of this? I mean, listening to that story, it sounds very unlikely that I would end up in the food industry. And yet I'm here today. It was very clear that my passion and my skill set were built around the arts, and yet it is actually in food, and in creating dishes, and in designing experiences have I discovered my true craft. And it is in these where I'm able to bring out my best every time. So, why? The reason why I'm telling you all of these is because I see every single experience that transpired and have transpired in my life as a factor as to why I'm here today. That's why it's always hard telling the story of how our restaurants and what we do came to be to our customers, because it really is so much more than the thought process or the steps we had to take to open our restaurants. I would not be here today had I not met Thea. I would not be here today had I not had a mother who is so loving and supportive of every decision that I make, good or bad. I also wouldn't be here had I not had a sister who challenged me and despised every wrong decision that I've made because she only wanted the best for me. And I wouldn't even have this relationship with them had I questioned my childhood back then. see, life will only deal you one hand. Some will have it great, some will have it bad. But at the end of the day, that is your hand. And there's no changing that. In a game of blackjack, for example, if you're dealt a 10 of clubs and a 2 diamonds, you don't go to the dealer and say you want a new hand. You're just going to have to make the most out of it and make it win. It's not impossible. It may be hard or it may be harder than everyone else's, but hey, nothing in life comes easy. And sometimes even the ones with a better hand end up losing. The reason why I told you almost my entire background is because that is my hand. I'm a Taurus, which is why our first restaurant is named The Girl in the Bowl. Admittedly, matigas ulo ko. I will only do things that I want, and most of the time I will only talk about. I will only do things that I want, and most of the time I will only think about what I want. And it's gotten me in a lot of shit. Back then, when I got into a lot of things, people saw it as me jumping from one thing to another, and parang, ano na ba talaga gagawin mo? But man, were all of those essential in building me into who I am today? Never did I know that I would be able to relate my background in music in the dishes that I create. Or that I would be able to use my skills in photography for marketing. Or that my knowledge and appreciation for design will help us create the perfect environment and branding for a restaurant. By dropping out of school 3 times, which a lot of people saw as negative, I actually see as one of my biggest strengths. Because what people didn't see was, in every class that I took, I was genuinely interested, and I genuinely learned what I had to learn. I joined boards and got myself out there, exposed myself to different things. I only took a sem and a half in Ateneo, and I only took 2 first sems in UP Diliman. And while people don't see that as much, those were actually the times when I learned the most, because I was able to expose myself and learn from 2 of the biggest schools in the country. Not just from the professors and the classes, but also from the people that I met along the way. Dropping out is what built my knees, because not only did I have to prove myself to my mom, my sister, to Thea's family, and everyone else's, but dropping also reduced me to the lowest point possible, which meant I had to work even harder to get to where I wanted to be. I had to do freelance work to support what I wanted to do, which at that time only consisted of dates with Thea and gas to get around. And it was actually at that point where I fell in love with food, which is another long story. But you see, why we're here right now is not just because of the experiences that transpired after that point where we fell in love with food. I don't even have to tell you guys about that, because it could actually trace back further, and suddenly the journey starts to make sense. I always remember this line from Steve Jobs, saying, you don't connect the dots moving forward, you connect the dots looking back. And it totally makes sense, because life is all about the decisions you make. And while there is no right or wrong decision or right or wrong path, you're just going to have to learn as much as you can and equip yourself with as much knowledge in order to make the best decisions, which will eventually turn into right decisions and lead you to the right path. But don't get me wrong, I'm not here to tell you guys to drop out. It just so happened to be the best decision for me, and it brought out the best in me. Millennials today mistakenly look at dropping out as a precursor to greatness. Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Tom Hanks. I'm sure you guys know all of that. But before you can make the best decisions, you have to acknowledge, you have to understand and accept your hand, because that's you. And before you can make something that is you have to know you, and you have to know what brings out the best in you and where you can best create you. I know I'm not good at talking, which is why I enjoy playing the drums. I like being behind. I like being behind the kitchen. I don't like seeing people. That's me. And I'm sure you guys have your strengths too. Some people will find that a structured form of learning, such as a university, brings out the best in them. Some people might find that learning through experiencing things on their own will suit them better. And that's okay. Some people will prefer a 9-to-5 job, while others will like to start their own thing. everyone will have their own journey, and it's up to you to make the most out of it. There's always something to learn in everything. Thea and I talk about this all the time. In any experience, there's always something to learn. Be it a random lecture, or this talk, or a conversation with someone, or simply holding an object. We have always believed that experience is the best teacher, which is why we set ourselves to experience different things. Because it's actually the little things that you get from simple life experiences, or the lessons that you choose to bring with you that complete you. You just have to keep your eyes and your mind open. Sometimes I can look at the vegetable, learn how it grows, talk to the farmer, and explore the flavors of its different parts, and my mind opens to different possibilities as to how I can use it in a dish. A simple conversation with someone who thinks differently will open your mind to other personalities, and you realize that not everyone thinks the same way you do. And once you unlock the ability to look at life from a distance, from different perspectives, but at the same time closely, right in the eye, to slow down time and start appreciating things for what they are, do we begin to see the beauty of life and everything in it. And that's what makes us feel alive. And when we feel alive, we're happy. I'm sure most of you always hear, like they always tell you should pursue your passion or do what makes you happy. And it's true. I mean, why should you do something that doesn't make you happy? But let's face it doesn't come easy for everyone. We knew what we wanted from the beginning, but it still didn't come easy. And our passion even evolved into something else. Some of you already know what you want to do, some are still looking for it, some of you have no idea at all. And that's okay, it's really okay. Just the fact that you're here listening to different speakers right now means you're doing something about it, and that you're setting yourself out there to learn. So just take life slowly and take it as it is, learn from it, experience it, love it. As long as you set yourself to a certain direction and a certain purpose, then it will come to you. And once you find it, dedicate yourself to it. Work on it, keep learning, and keep getting better at it. You will know when you found it, because you will not stop and you will not want to stop. If it's work that causes you to just produce something that's half-assed, then that's not it, that's not you. And how far you go and how far you can stretch yourself or your imagination to create something will only depend on you.
Hi guys. Alright, so growing up, I never saw myself in the food industry, ever. When we opened 1210, our second restaurant, we had some friends and family over. And I remember a good friend of mine told me in passing, "Hey, alala ko nung high school, hindi ka naman kumakain eh." And then I remembered, yeah, I was really a non-foodie back then. Growing back, I used to dance ballet, so that meant I had to be the skinniest version of myself. When I went into college, I was a flyer for a cheering team for a short while. But it also meant that I had to be as lightweight as possible. My family doesn't eat out a lot. I don't read a lot of food magazines. And back then, Instagram and Facebook weren't existing yet, so I didn't have access to where the cool people are eating or which new restaurants are open. So basically, I was really a non-foodie. I remember also, my friend back in high school, sabi niya, "Hey, birthday ng girlfriend ko, saan ko siya ilalabas? Sa Siyang kaya?" Tapos sabi ko, "Why spend on food? Itatain mo lang yan the next day." As in, yun yung thinking ko before about food. So, why am I here now? I own and manage 2 restaurants. I travel to eat. I read a lot of food magazines, food blogs, food whatever. And then, yeah, why am I here now? So, admittedly, I was just Gab's support system coming into the Girl in the Ball. I was applying to different corporate jobs at the moment, and all I did was wait for interviews. So I was really doing nothing. So when Gab said, you know what, we can do it, we can open the Girl in the Ball, I said the same reply to each crazy idea Gab had before, may it be dropping out of school for the third time, starting a two-man band, or opening a restaurant. I said, okay. So my purpose behind coming into the Girl in the Ball was simple. My boyfriend wanted to become a great chef and needed someone to believe in him. And so I did. So purpose number one, belief. I'm 100% sure that all entrepreneurs believe in their startups. Name one that didn't and ask them how it is doing right now, or if it's still ongoing, or were you even able to name one? So yeah, I really believe that you have to believe in your product. In my case, I had to believe in Gab's vision. Call it sappy, cheesy, or whatever. Gab believed in it, and so I believed in him. The night before the opening, I remember the opening of the Girl in the Ball. I remember it was just me, Gab, and his driver, and we got everything from our rooms to be able to decorate the restaurant. We didn't have much money, so whatever we had at home, yun na lang yung nilagay namin sa restaurant. So the night before, nagpupukpuk kami yung nagtatali ng mga yung famous photo wall namin doon, kami nagtali nun, kami nagwalis, kami lahat. So that means like you really need to start from really working hard to get to where you are today. I know you hear that a lot, but that's true. So days have passed and weeks have passed. We didn't have that much customers then. It was tough, I must say. It wasn't easy watching our door not open the whole day, knowing na, okay, sige, walang customer. And there was this one time, no customer at all for the day. So Gab and I decided, sige, mag-date na lang tayo sa restaurant natin. So, para lang may sales kami for the day. That was how it was back then. So, while Gab discussed how our lives were before the Girl in the Ball, and how I'm sure all the other speakers would talk about achieving success, finding your passion, I guess one thing that I'd like to talk about is how to build things up from where you are right now. So let's go to the day where the ball's finally rolling. Customers started coming in every hour or so. The restaurant gets filled up fast. People from Fairview and QC would come to the restaurant, and mind you, Fairview and QC is on the opposite end of Metro Manila. We were located at BF Homes. There was actually a time where people from Hong Kong and Singapore would call or email me just to say, hey, you want to try your restaurant? And that was really humbling. We also shifted from bloggers, magazine editors, newspaper columnists contacting us saying, we love your story, can we feature you guys? So it was really humbling. Nakakakilig talaga, I must say. But I guess the reason why it was so humbling and sobrang nakakakilig siya is because Gab and I never asked for any of those. When we started the Girl in the Ball, we just really wanted to do something in their lives. And in my case, I just really wanted to support Gab. And in anything, things are sweeter when you don't ask for them, right? So then, my purpose from just merely supporting Gab with his dreams of becoming a great chef grew to purpose number 2, which is service. My job makes me interact with a lot of people. I take orders, I check on tables, I get complaints, I get straight faces, blank faces, I get everything. Imagine nyo lahat ng emojis, emoticons nyo sa phone nyo, lahat ng expression nyo, name it, lahat yun nakita ko na. And as ironic as it may seem, that's the time I fell in love with this industry. I like the idea of meeting a lot of people and learning from them, and knowing the fact that we're able to inspire them. Like what Gab said a while ago, it's really about learning. So, with each table customer that we touch or get to interact with, it really means a lot to us that we get to touch their lives. One thing I realized with starting your own business and with running a restaurant is that you can't please everyone, especially in the food industry, I must say. So for all of you who want to start your own restaurant, you really can't please everyone. So don't be discouraged if some people find your food pricey, or your portion small, or if your music's too loud, or if your restaurant's too small. Do not be discouraged.